And now, a Buddy Check 13 reminder with News 13's Amy Hoyt.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to 13 Now. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt. We're coming to you live from our newsroom on Harrison Avenue in downtown Panama City. Good to have you with us today. As you know, it's the 13th. We're all wearing pink. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Reminders once a month. It's our Buddy Check reminder for you to check for lumps in your breast because, of course, early detection is key. We always, in most cases, talk about women because it affects mostly women, but there are men who do get diagnosed with breast cancer. And we have a special guest today who agreed to come out and tell his story. We appreciate him so much. Please welcome our guest, Walt Abbott. Good to see you today.
Thank you, Amy, and I appreciate you having me here.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. Let's start from the very beginning. Did you tell me it's been about 15 years since you were diagnosed?
Yes, March was 15 years.
All right, tell me how you found it. I think you found it yourself.
I did. I noticed a little lump in my breast, on my right breast. And at first, I kind of ignored it. I thought it was a hematoma that was the result of a fall that I had recently had. But after a couple of weeks or so, and it didn't go away, and some of the symptoms were itching, and it was hard, and at times it would be very tender. So I went to my general practitioner, and I think he immediately knew what it probably was. He sent me to a general surgeon. They did a biopsy on me. The biopsy came back positive for stage 1 breast cancer.
Were you shocked?
Yes, I was a little bit. When I had the biopsy, I started doing a little research on breast cancer in men. I found out, first of all, that less than 1% of all new breast cancer diagnoses are male. But I just kind of put it out of my mind. But I do remember getting that phone call from my doctor that day, and he told me that it was malignant. So at that point, I decided on two things. First of all, I decided I'd be very aggressive in my treatment. Secondly, I decided, this is not what's going to kill me. I'm going to beat this. So
you decided to fight it.
I did. So I had a history with the University of Alabama hospitals in Birmingham from having gone to some doctors there. So I called my diabetes specialist at UAB. He got me in with their breast health clinic at UAB. Went to UAB and met with a team of physicians, surgical oncologist, radiation oncologist, and a general oncologist, and also what's kind of neat about UAB is they are a teaching and research hospital. So there were several interns and residents that met with us. 2 weeks later, I was back having surgery, and they performed a complete mastectomy on my right breast.
Did you decide to have that surgery on your own, or was that something you came up with once you got to UAB?
Well, that was their recommendation, was for me to have the surgery. And, one thing, of course, with men having a mastectomy, it's not the same cosmetic implications that it would be for a lady. Right. And so it really didn't bother me that they would be doing that. I just wanted to get rid of the cancer and move on with life the best I could.
Now, with women, a lot of times, even if it's on one side, they'll go ahead and do the double mastectomy so that it doesn't come back for sure. Was that an option for you?
They never discussed that, so it wasn't really an option. One thing that they did do while I was in surgery was they took out some sentinel nodes, which are like lymph nodes, but they're kind of the leading nodes. They took those out, and while I was still on the operating table, they sent them to the lab, had them check for any cancerous tumors, and they came back clean. So didn't have to have any lymph nodes taken out. So
wow. Now, is this any family history of breast cancer?
None whatsoever. So that was another thing that was a little bit surprising to me. So you never can tell what would cause it. Now, the doctors told me, I told them about the fall, and they told me that there would have been a slight chance that could have exacerbated the cancer, but they just weren't sure about that.
Okay, now you told me you didn't have chemo or radiation, correct?
That's right. They sent my tumor off to UCLA, and they checked it, and it came back clean to where I would not have to have chemo or radiation. I took an oral medication for about 8 years.
The tamoxifen?
That's correct, tamoxifen.
And was that daily, a pill daily?
That was daily.
And that's to keep it what, from spreading?
Yes, and to keep it from, the progression from coming back. And I will tell you that while I was on the tamoxifen, it was kind of funny, but I would have hot flashes at night,
no.
just like, a lady going through menopause or something.
Because it's the same medication.
It is. And I'd be throwing the covers off the bed. And
oh, no.
Just huffing and puffing.
Sorry about that.
Well, that's all right.
I know. It's okay. Because you're cancer-free, so it's okay.
That's right.
Let's go back just a little bit. Now, you have 2 children and a wife. And they were obviously, the children especially, were younger then. So
right.
what is the reaction when you come home and tell them that dad has breast cancer?
Well, my daughter at that time was in college, and my son was in high school. So I think my daughter took it the worst of anybody. When she came home for a weekend right after I was diagnosed, I do remember she was sitting there on the sofa, and we told her, and she just broke down in tears. And my wife, she took it, like I did, a little bit stronger and all. But my daughter, she didn't like that too much, of course. But I assured her, and my son, I said, listen, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be up in Birmingham in good hands, and I'm going to beat this.
And so far well over the 10-year limit that they give men to give you that clearance. So you're doing great. I
am. I'm doing real well. I have mammograms every year on my left breast. And so, that's not a lot of fun, but it is what it is.
No,
it's not
we
that
know.
bad.
It's not a lot of fun.
It's not that
but
bad.
It's necessary.
It is necessary. And I tell you what, it's just real quick. You go in there and it is real quick. And also they'll do an ultrasound on me. But
so you do that once a year?
Once a year, sure do.
So once a man gets breast cancer, it becomes similar to what a woman goes through.
Yes, that's true. And the way my doctor explained it to me is, the breast tissue in a man's breast is basically the same as in a woman's breast, just not as much of it. And so, that's why men can get breast cancer.
Now, do your children, who are obviously grown adults now, do they pay better attention to it because it sort of puts them at risk?
And it does, now that we've got a history of breast cancer in the family. And my daughter especially, she pays much closer attention to any changes that she might see.
Are the odds higher for the son because you're the dad, not the mom?
Well, I don't think any higher, Amy, than they would be otherwise. But, just because, the chances of a man getting breast cancer are so rare anyway. But I think the one thing with my son, at least, is now if he suspected something, he would be much more aware to get it checked out.
Right, because men tend not to think that's what it is, and they wait even if they feel something.
And that is one reason that the survival rate for men can be lower, is because they will ignore it.
Right.
And I have stressed to anybody that I talk to, early detection. That is the real key.
Right. How important is having a support group? Family, friends, church?
Oh, that, you couldn't go into a journey like that alone. My wife was just fantastic. She helped me, of course, leading up to the surgery. Once I was diagnosed, she helped me post-surgery. There's some home care that you have to go through after you've had a mastectomy. My kids seem to be much more attentive to me, all my family and my church family. I'm a member of First United Methodist Church here, and my church family was so great too, and that really means a lot to me.
Your faith played a big role then.
Yes, absolutely it did.
Going back to the surgery, when women have it, they have the drainage tubes right after the surgery. Did you go through that as well?
I sure did, and that was one of the main things that my wife was so helpful in. I had drain tubes, and I had a collection bag strapped to me, and it had to be drained and measured every day or two.
How did you
And-
get that information to UAB? You didn't stay in Alabama.
No, I didn't. We kept a log, and I would send that to them
Right.
through the portal.
So they would know.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, how long did it take you to get back on your feet and back to feeling normal?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you. I stayed in the hospital overnight, and I was out the next day, and we went back, left Birmingham, and came home the following day, and I was out and about. Within a couple of days after that, I never really had any pain with the surgery or the post-operative or anything.
Wow. Well, that's great news then. I mean, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
If a man is listening and he is ever diagnosed, that's
Certainly.
encouraging to know.
Certainly, I was out on the golf course again within, once I got the drain tubes out.
Yeah.
About the next day after that, I think.
And then you had to play again.
Yeah.
And tell me about your involvement with the American Cancer Society.
Well, you have two options. When you're diagnosed with breast cancer, if you're a man or a woman, you can either go through the treatment and get the cure and then just kind of go about your business, or you can be proactive in trying to help other people. And I decided I'd be as proactive as I could. I became involved with the local American Cancer Society. In fact, I was even honorary chair of the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer one year and spoke to a lot of groups and organizations. And that was real, fulfilling to me. I would have people, male friends too, they would call me and they'd say, "Hey, I feel like I might have something going on here." And I would always tell them, go to the doctor. It might be nothing, but just go to the doctor. And I was always, I probably was overboard on it a little bit, but I would harp on people. If you have anything that you suspect, get to the doctor, because it's going to be there regardless. And don't be afraid of the diagnosis, because if you get there quick, the chances of cure are very high.
Get it out, get it done.
That's correct.
Now, I know that you are here as a man to encourage other men, but do you take questions from women as well? I mean, obviously, as we're learning, breast cancer is breast cancer.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, I have a high school classmate that was diagnosed a few months ago, and I spoke with her and, told her a little bit about what she would be expecting to go through. Now, one thing that I didn't go through myself was the chemo and the radiation, but as far as the surgery was involved, I could give her a lot of information on that. And anytime someone that knows that I've had breast cancer approaches me, I'm always willing to talk to them about it.
Now, when you took the tamoxifen, did that have any side effects?
Other than the hot flashes, no, that's about it. That was
are you and your wife able to, especially now, but even back then, were you able to laugh about that? Because, as women, we're always like, we wish a man would understand these things.
Oh yeah.
And here you are having to go through something so similar.
Absolutely, and she would get a chuckle out of my hot flashes. And I'll tell you a kind of a funny little story. One group of people that I was talking to after I had been diagnosed and treated and cured, and it was a few teams from the Making Strides, and I told them there were a lot of ladies in the group, and I said, I know there's two things that every lady in this room thinks a man should have to experience, and one is giving birth, and the other is having a mammogram.
Yes.
And I said, I've got you on one, but I'll never help you on the other.
Oh man. Well, I guess a sense of humor, you almost have to have one.
You
to
have
get through
to.
it.
You have to. You can't let it control you. You've got to control it.
Is there anything that you would give advice, or something maybe I'm not asking, that you would want people who are diagnosed with breast cancer to know?
Well, you've got to have a positive outlook. You've got to be very aggressive, and you've just got to get the treatment and have the mindset, this is not going to defeat me. I'm going to defeat this breast cancer. And they have had so many advancements in treating breast cancer in the last decade, even since I was diagnosed 15 years ago. that your chances of a complete cure are so high, but just early detection and be aggressive with your treatment.
I couldn't have said it any better. Walt Abbott, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Another reminder, check for lumps in your breast, especially women, but even men. As we learned today, don't overlook anything that may be out of place. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.